Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the Nutrition Detective around these here YouTube parts, and we are here with another Love Your Liver live stream. I'm back home, and I have my camera back now. Last week, I didn't have my camera. I left it with Kelsey in Idaho, so I couldn't do a camera last week, but we have everything back now, and everything is going well. Joe says the microphone sounds different. Well, I don't know, Joe. I don't know. I'll try the right mic. Let me try it. Not that one. Try that one. Is that one better? That should be better. That should be the right one. Okay, great. Good. Forgot to switch the microphone to the right one. So now we've got the right one. Okay, so it wasn't on my webcam mic anymore. It's on the fancy mic. Okay, so, well, I forgot to ask Sarah to collect some testimonials for me, so that's my fault. I did get to bed quite late last night after driving home from LA from my lovely daughter's dance trip where she was collecting. She was humble bragging that she got so many awards that she had to get a bag to carry them all, and it was true. It was very cool. She's amazing. And so yeah, we were up there doing that, and now we're home. And so today we don't have any questions yet. If you guys are in the chat and you have questions and you don't want to have to do a super chat, now's the time to do it. For those of you who come later, super chats obviously move you to the top of the list of questions. And until we have some questions in the chat, I'm going to go and head through some of my Twitter stuff because I post a lot of interesting stuff to Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, you don't have to follow anybody on Twitter. You can just follow me if you want, and you want to see the stuff I post there, because that's where I am out showing the stuff in the real world. So, yeah. So let's post a question in the chat if you got one. Otherwise, I'm going to share my screen and go to Twitter, and we'll go through some things until we get some questions, and then we will get going. There I am on Twitter. I'm looking at my own face on Twitter. Here, let's go there. Because I always post fun stuff here. Okay. Yeah, let's head into this one. Recently, Joe, you can see my screen, right? We got it here? Okay, so recently, Saladino was posting about the BPA in receipts, right? So he's touching it with his shirt and everything. I'm not going to put on the sound. So I thought I would post about... Okay, Susan, I'll get to that question. So I was posting about the BPA in animal foods because Paul Saladino likes to push his organ meat supplements. And then he's worried about touching receipts. Now, I'm not going to say to go and touch receipts. Like, that's not a great idea. But if you touch them for a second and you toss them away, I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. Of course, it's best to not touch them. Feel bad for the people, the cashiers, touching them all day long when people say they don't want a receipt, and then the cashiers are having to touch every single one. That's where you want to be careful. But what I was talking about here was how animal livers in the research absorb more BPA, accumulate. The word is accumulate, more BPA than all the other tissues in the body. Why do we not eat detox organs? Because detox organs accumulate toxins, and this is shown over and over and over and over in the research. So beef liver had tons of BPA in it. It's a fat-soluble toxin, folks. The liver accumulates fat-soluble toxins. Okay. Wild fish liver. As they say here, in all the species, the BPA average concentrations were higher in the liver than in the muscle. And if you look here, these are, If you look here, 46 to 58, 35 to 77 in the liver. So this was muscle, and this is liver. Not even detectable to 59.3 in the liver, and then 3.7 muscle and 24.5 in the liver. So 8-ish times higher. 5 to 11, 2 to 75. So even if you take the highest end, it's almost 7 times more. Okay. The liver collects toxins. Do you think that there's any cattle out there that are not being absorbed to BPA through the rain and other things that are all everywhere? And I have 2 threads here. If you find this post, I have 2 threads where we go over how much toxicity is in the liver and the kidneys and other organs of wild animals, grass-fed animals, conventionally fed animals, pastured animals. Like, it's all there. And then I talk about getting vitamin A toxicity from liver. And nobody in the organ meat world seems to think this is important. So yeah. Oh, Joe got the link. So let me get to Susan's questions now. So Joe, if you want to take that down. Okay. This is an important concept. Susan asks or says, I need breakfast suggestions for more protein, Dr. Smith. Oatmeal is not doing it for you anymore. Well, oatmeal by itself, this is an important thing for everybody. The idea of breakfast foods is kind of like a psyop. Why can't you eat anything you want at breakfast? Why do we have this weird societal, like, these foods are for breakfast and these foods are for anything other than breakfast? And why is breakfast always, so sweet and the rest of the day is so savory, right? So the thing about breakfast is, what do you think would be good for you to eat at breakfast? Like, it's not just, if you want protein at breakfast, I mean, that's one of the things I do at breakfast so I can eat and go to the gym and not be too heavy in the gym. And I also don't want to cook in the morning. It's not the greatest choice I could make, but I'll do a beef stick and a couple of bananas in the morning. And that I can work out no problem on that. Actually, a really good sign of foods that are good for you is foods that you believe you could go work out in a half hour after you eat them, or immediately after you eat them. That would be even better. So if you have foods you could work out on right away, like I could tell you with that beef stick and the 2 bananas, I mean, I'd love to have like 5 to 10 minutes to just let it settle. And then I could work out on it. So, if you want to eat leftover steak for breakfast, just whatever works. It does not, if you want more protein for breakfast, oatmeal ain't it, right? Oatmeal has protein, but it's not like what we think of as a protein food. I do really well with that small bit of meat to get some protein in me, and then the bananas, because I really do well with more potassium rather than less. So, I mean, to give you ideas, it's just, what else might you like to eat? Or you could, like I said, have leftovers. You could have dinner leftovers for breakfast. A lot of people are doing kind of savory oats where they're actually mixing like ground beef and oats. So you can put, oats were originally savory. Like, the whole idea of oats why are oats the only grain that we eat? The main grain, cooked grain that we eat sweet. Why do we have, like, that's a psyop too. It's like, why are oats so different? Why do we only think of oats as like a cooked grain for breakfast, and then we make it sweet, and every other grain is like lunch or dinner, and we make it savory? Like, so we do weird things for breakfast. That's just a weird thing. So once I finally got over the idea of why are breakfast foods, I personally, and I suggest this to other people, I personally do best if I have a higher fat breakfast. I do not like it. My body does not like having a bunch of fat thrown down in it in the morning. It's not, my body doesn't like it. So I don't do it. Yeah. But just don't limit yourself at breakfast to Americanized breakfast foods. That's the big mistake. You can have whatever you want for breakfast. Have whatever feels good. And if it fits in the normal love your liver framework, I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it? So yeah, if you want more protein, find more protein and have it for breakfast. That's the best I got for you. This is I'm having some of the organic roasted barley coffee substitute. Oh, Bonjo says, Dr. Smith, you're the best. Well, thank you very much for that. And actually, before I get into Susan's next question, which she had up, oh, you guys, I have been experimenting. I did some, I don't know if you guys, so if you follow me on Twitter, you may have seen me mentioning I did some blood and urine and hair testing before I started undertaking this new kind of supplement detox experiment. And no, I'm not going to tell you what it is. Once I have the tests back, I will tell you what it is. However, it started on the 11th while I was up in Idaho. And since that time, I'm going to try to remember all the things that I have noticed since. First of all, I left Idaho, on the 15th. It's now the 26th. And I started the new supplement on the 11th. When Kelsey saw me this weekend, we'd only been apart 6 days. She immediately noticed that I had not been cutting my hair as often. And she immediately noticed, she's like, your hair is really growing fast. And I said, I know. Like, my beard is growing fast. My hair is growing fast. Us guys with the jokingly, I call it the old man hairs, like the ear hairs and the nose hairs. I'm like, those are growing fast. Like, what is going on? My fingernails were growing like crazy. It was annoying. And then I noticed, okay, so I'm not going to go into detail on this, but I noticed multiple aspects of my male specific functions were doing better. And then something else that I noticed after the LA trip is, I'm going to be honest, when I go on vacations, I'm not good at working out. I'm out of my normal routine, and I'm not good at taking aside time and going to the hotel gym, or, I was in LA. It's not like I'm going to go for a jog on the streets, kind of one of Kelsey's favorite songs is Walking in LA, right? Nobody walks in LA. I was not going to go for a jog out there, and I can't stand running on treadmills. So anyway, I worked out all 3 days, the non-travel days. I worked out all 3 days in LA. And I pointed that out to Kelsey, and she's like, yeah, that's not normal for you. Like, you don't exercise very well when you're on a trip. So I'm seeing all these positive things. Oh yeah, Joe, I sorry, Will, I'm not going to say it. It's going to be a surprise, but it's going to be like, I'm going to do all my testing again on the 11th of December. And then after that, once Kelsey and I have decided that all the testing has gone okay, then we're gonna unleash it. I'm so excited. I'm actually having my graphic designer work on the label for it today. But yeah, this is really going to add to the detox, I think. And yeah, it's really, I noticed stuff like within a day or two of taking it. And I'm taking a lot. I test things for you guys. I'm the ethical scientist who is going to, if anybody's going to get damaged from something, I'm not going to put you guys on it before I know if I do okay on it. And I'm taking a lot of it because I want to show that it's safe, and we're trying to prove something here. So that's why I'm doing all the testing for you guys. And I'll go over all the testing when it comes back. So just know that this is a very exciting time. Kelsey's working on, she prototyped all of our liquid minerals. We got multiple liquid minerals coming out. I've got about 9 other products in the pipeline with our supplement manufacturer, who seems to be, we finally figured out that this one that we're working with seems to be consistent. And at least they return emails daily. Kind of important. Actually, Will, I can't get you what I have yet. I could get you on something. Just send me a DM, Will. Okay. The requirement is, Will, that you keep your mouth shut too. Will is a supreme experimenter. So he gives great feedback. So I trust him on this. Okay, so Susan said this was the last question before more people started coming in. She said, loving the magnesium lotion. Well, thank you. We're glad you like it. 4 to 5 pumps at bedtime. Is this evidence of hypercalcemia? Okay. You're getting into technical terms here, so we gotta define these things. So what is hypercalcemia? Hypercalcemia would be excessive, right? Hypercalcium. Emia is in the blood. Do you necessarily have hypercalcemia on a lab test? No. If your blood calcium is getting too high or too low, it starts to affect your heart, starts to affect your brain. You could look up all the symptoms of hypercalcemia. It's not fun. It's a bad situation to be in. So what your body does, so how does your body avoid hypercalcemia or hypernatremia, which is too much salt, hyperkalemia, which is too much potassium, hypermagnesemia, which is too much magnesium? How does your body avoid these things if it's got too much of it in there? It puts these things into the soft tissue to move them out of the blood. Think of it as your blood is your body will do its best to keep your blood under control, to keep the electrolytes, right? The electrical signaling minerals at the right amount so that it doesn't make your heart go wonky and your brain go wonky and everything else go wonky. So would I assume that you have hypercalcemia? No. What the magnesium does, if you feel better from it, it's helping to counteract the calcium. Most of us have way too much calcium in places it shouldn't be. Soft tissue calcification. The other term you can look up is metastatic calcification. I know you guys hear metastatic and you think cancer. Well, metastatic calcification is like spreading calcification. And if you guys don't understand, when they look at most imaging stuff that modern medicine looks at, what's the thing they see the best or they notice the most on it? Calcifications. You can go look up radiology websites. They see, like when they look at prostate, BPH, prostate cancer, they find calcifications in the prostate. So what magnesium does, and this is in the research, and I've presented the papers on it before about magnesium, where I think they were IVing mag sulfate into people, and they were giving them oral mag sulfate, and they dissolved calcifications. They were dissolving, like, big bumpy joints. Like I have a little bump on my thumb here that I don't know if it's going to go away or not, but it's like think of bone spurs, right? So they actually showed that they were dissolving these calcification bumps. Like when you see people who have arthritis and their joints get big, like their bones get big, they are calcifying the tendons and the ligaments and the cartilage and the soft tissue around that joint. That's why the joint is getting bigger. You can dissolve that. So does that necessarily mean you have high calcium in the blood? No. The reason why you have big joints or calcification in the soft tissues is because your body will do its best to prevent you from having hypercalcemia by shoving it into the soft tissues. Magnesium can dissolve that. And the reason the magnesium counters it in the blood so that you don't get as much of a negative effect from it. So is it evidence of too much calcium in your system being where it's not supposed to be? Yes. Is it evidence of hypercalcemia? No, not without a blood test. So hope that helps. And yes, the magnesium lotion, we're working on another order of it right now, so we don't run out. Because it is probably, if not our best seller, it is one of our best sellers. If you haven't tried our magnesium lotion, you should. If you want to learn all about topical magnesium, Joe, you might want to put up there it is. Joe's on top of it today. Wow. The magnesium live stream I did. Now, just so you guys know, just a tip. If you're sending somebody to our YouTube channel, I'm going to talk to Sarah about reposting all of our live streams as actual videos on the channel. But if you want to direct somebody to find the live streams, have them go on the main youtube.com/nutrition detective, have them go into the live tab, because there's like the normal videos And then there's the live streams, and the live streams are all under the live tab. But what we're going to do is we're going to post the videos again under the main videos. We'll just repost them as videos so they're both places. So that's, Sarah, that's one thing we got to work on. Okay. So now let's see. No super chats yet. Okay, cool. So I just keep going down. LeBrad Pass says, "Hey doc, my wife is currently 6 months pregnant with our third child. I am newer to the program. Self-study started in October. What things can I do when our baby arrives?" Well, if it were me, there would be no shots of any kind. Obviously, we would be removing the highest vitamin A foods and all vitamin A supplements and all vitamin D supplements and all, other things like that. We'd be working on the basic minerals in the mom, especially if you're planning on nursing, which I hope you are. For everybody out there, whenever you see me talk about the toxins in breast milk, breast is always best. Okay? Breast is always best. Like, they are required to put vitamin A and vitamin D and copper into every formula. So you're guaranteed poisoning the baby, somewhat with any formula out there, but you still need the baby to live. So if there's no breast milk, then, better to stay alive and detox later than to not feed the baby and not have one. Okay? Starvation is bad. But yeah, a buddy of mine, Matt, he was looking around for formula, I think, for a friend of his, and he's in the Love Your Liver program. He's like, I can't find anything without added vitamin A, added vitamin D, added copper. And I'm like, they require it. It's just like dog foods and cat foods. They're trying to poison your animals. They may think they're doing well, but it's not ending well. So, okay. So like, I'm trying to remember what I did. Instead of the vitamin K shot, I'm going to tell you what I did for my kids with my now ex-wife. Instead of the vitamin K shot, and just to cover our bases, because my ex-wife, well, there's a reason she's my ex-wife, but she's very much more conventionally minded, which kind of explains things the way they are today. What we did was we got some of the Thorne vitamin K2 drops, not the D3 and K2, the Thorne K2 drops. And she, while the baby was nursing, the babies, we got 2 kids, she would do a drop on the nipple, and then the baby would latch on and take the vitamin K drop. So I think we did 1 drop a day for a week. That was it. So we covered the vitamin K, which she was worried about. What if there's a problem? And I was like, and I looked up some stuff online, and I was like, this is a fine dose. And we did it for 1 week, and everything was fine. So there would be that. I would, if your wife is having any issues with morning sickness is bile in the stomach. So more charcoal can help with that. There's just making sure she's keeping, food in her stomach, especially protein and fibrous foods that we like on the Love Your Liver program. Just making sure there's enough potassium and magnesium and other things. Magnesium is necessary for muscles to relax. Relaxing muscles is kind of important for delivery. You know what I'm saying? And potassium helps with stress. And if she's stressed out, almost every pregnant mother is like cholestatic, toxic leaky bile. It's in the literature. They consider subclinical cholestasis in the research. Subclinical means they know it's there, but they can't find it by their labs and whatever ways they're looking at it. So subclinical means they know it's there, they just can't find it. Cholestasis is toxic leaky bile. Subclinical cholestasis is considered a normal part of pregnancy now. When I get labs from women who are pregnant, blood labs, copper's like super high, vitamin A is super high, and it drops after the baby's delivered. But pregnancy, one of the reasons women feel so bad during pregnancy is because that toxicity in their liver gets stirred up and it's going through their system. I know my ex-wife was horribly toxic, especially from 13 years of birth control. And she suffered through both pregnancies because she was so toxic. Don't think that I didn't try to help her. Could you imagine me not trying to help? I tried to help. She was the worst client I've ever had, ever. I learned tons of things from her, how to help other people and how to read signs instead of asking the person. I had to watch her to figure things out because her feedback was so bad. Anyway, yeah, since October, I mean, normally with okay, so for anybody out there who's ladies, if you're trying to get pregnant, or guys, if for your wife, or if you're in the process of trying to get pregnant. Now, I know people are trying to do it as quickly as possible, and that's fine. I generally suggest that women have done 6 months of, if they're doing the Love Your Liver program, and they're doing a lot of it, I suggest 6 months of the Love Your Liver program before you purposely try to get pregnant. So that we are past, obviously, the biggest detox dumps are likely to happen in the early phases of this. I would much rather, if we already know that pregnancy is like a bile dumping, bile leaking condition, and we know that detoxing is going to, Joe's putting up episode 53 and 71 of the basics of toxic bile theory. Those are good to watch. But if we already know we're dumping bile, we already know the toxicity is kind of leaking in the system. And then we know that this process is going to increase the dumping of bile. When do people tend to have their biggest detox dumps where they don't feel good? It's going to be in the first 6 months. Now, we do know that excessive vitamin A in the bloodstream of the mother and the baby, therefore, can cause birth defects. So why don't we just avoid that whole first 6 months of causing issues, right? This is me being extra safe. I don't want anyone to say that I've caused them problems. And so I'm saying, if you're going to do this like hardcore, give it 6 months before you try to get pregnant. And after those 6 months, getting pregnant will probably be so easy that it'll just be, like the 40-year-old woman we had, where I told her, I said, you're going to get so fertile that you need to, she's like, what do I need to do about not getting pregnant? I'm like, you need to be on it, and you need to not mess up, because you're going to be super fertile. Her and her husband messed up once and she was pregnant. We make people, the term we like to use that I got from Josh Lysick is, we make people dangerously fertile. If you are infertile, it's because you are toxic and deficient. No judgment. Tons of people, look at the infertility epidemic. You're not alone. We fix this. So let's see. Hope that helped. So one MDA asked, which beans do you suggest? I like eating white beans because of the white color rule, but I'm not sure. I mean, generally the rule would be, or the guideline, I'll put it that way. White beans are the best. White beans are going to have the least vitamin A in that. And just remember, but about beans, the inside of most all beans is white. The outer part of the bean is the colored part. So I know Will for a while was even like processing his beans to get all of the I don't know if you call it the husk or the skin of the beans off, and just getting the inner white part. That's I would personally never do that. That's just too much work for me. I'm just there's only so much I'll do. And I want this to be accessible for people, and not everybody has the time to do that. So, but white beans compared to black beans, like black beans do have a fair bit of polyphenols in that skin. But when you think about it, it's like the apple peel, right? The apple, how much of the apple is the apple peel? It's not. LeBrad said, thanks for the info on pregnancy. Sorry, I brought up the X. No. I mean, okay. I learned so much about vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity from my ex-wife. The sad thing is she didn't learn a damn thing while she was with me. She even went, can you imagine being married to me for over 20 years and then going and getting the coof shot? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine what I was dealing with underneath all that? You can lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink. I tried. So anyway, white beans are the best. If we just had to make a general statement. Now I will say black-eyed peas. This is a weird thing. Black-eyed peas are probably the highest vitamin A bean. They're a little yellowish, little bit of yellow, but I don't know how that happened, but that they are. I'm still trying to. I used to eat black-eyed peas a lot in my stews and stuff, and I still have them left, and I'm just too cheap to throw them away. They're not super high in vitamin A. They're just the highest bean. But like the idea would be like kidney beans, red kidney beans. Those are not. Red can be a vitamin A color. Red is a polyphenol color. Black beans are mainly polyphenols. It's not kidney beans. Pinto beans are that tan, the light brown color. They're fine. I mean, they're all fine. Like, remember what Grant did with black beans. There's polyphenols in black beans, but Grant removed all the other polyphenols and all the other vitamin A with his other choices. So a generality would be white beans are the best. Yes. And then you just go by what you tolerate. Like if you were like, I don't feel good on white beans, but I feel fine on black beans. Well, then do black beans. So there's always caveats to these things. But yeah, the white color rule is good. Now, this is one thing that I was talking to some people on Twitter about, which is dairy milk has tons of vitamin A in it, and it's white. So there's something about the proteins in milk. So casein and whey can put vitamin. They have vitamin A inside of them. It's in the literature. It's in the research. And then the fat, the retinol esters, it just seems to hide the vitamin A. So milk doesn't follow the white rule. And then it seems that the more we process milk, right? So you take the butter fat off milk, and then you get the light yellow. And then if you melt the butter to like make ghee, it turns even more yellow. So you see, it's like that vitamin A was in there the whole time, but it was hidden. How does that happen? I don't know. Let me see. Joe says we're getting a little lag in the video. Let me see. Do I have anything else running? No. Yeah, we'll just have to deal with it. Joe, we can upload my local recording. But yeah. Susan said she'd like to eat bacon and eggs. Well, you could do egg whites and turkey bacon or beef bacon. You could do any bacon you want other than pork. So, yeah. Egg whites, if you want to do them. I've completely lost my taste even for egg whites. Like, I just don't even feel I need them anymore. I don't like them. I tried them for a while, and I'll still eat them. But, yeah, eggs are just... Actually, we had multiple people commenting on Twitter the other day about how they were losing their taste for eggs over time as they detox. And also, people were talking about how they lost their taste for bacon. So, losing your taste for those things partially is just being on the program longer, and your body loses its taste for them. There's things that we may still have mental attachments to that are a little harder to get rid of. Okay. So, oh yeah, Hope was saying we see bacon and eggs due to propaganda. Remember, that was somebody posted about this. The whole bacon and eggs for breakfast thing was a marketing campaign. And I forget how the guy who did it is connected to the elite. Like, they're really like their family's still at the top of things. Like, yeah. Bacon was a propaganda psyop. What else do we eat that is just like fat like that? Really, I mean, there's like the bacon's just little teeny strips of protein, and people are just eating fat. And then when you think about it, think about pork fat and how hard it is to clean off of things. That no other fat is like that. There's something weird about pork fat, besides the fact that pork is full of parasites. And besides the fact that before there was science, people were already figuring out that avoiding pork was a good idea. Somebody posted on Twitter today, replying to me saying that they smelled funky when they ate bacon. They could tell that they smell like they got BO when they ate bacon. The signs are everywhere. Julie, after my practice manager, after doing the diet long enough, she said her and her husband made bacon one morning, and they were baking it, and they took it out and they looked at it and they smelled it. I think they took one bite and they threw away the whole pan. They both were disgusted by it. It happens. This is, your body is actually very, very good at recognizing poisons if it's clean enough. As you get cleaner, it becomes easier for your body to say, this is not a good idea. So, okay. Oh, Hope says she's made beef or deer sausage gravy with homemade biscuits. Nice. Okay, Victor's asking how much niacin am I taking daily? Well, okay, so this is an important thing to know about me for you guys out there. I'm gonna set the stage. Any amount of flush niacin. Now remember, we do not take nicotinamide, we do not take niacinamide. These are like recycle waste products of the niacin pathway. I don't recommend any niacin source other than nicotinic acid. And remember, the word niacin is derived from nicotinic acid, Ni, right? Nicotinic acid, ACI, and then the N is probably just to finish off the vitamin idea. So niacin means nicotinic acid. Okay. Any amount you take is likely going to be helpful as long as you tolerate it and it doesn't cause too much bile dumping, because niacin does increase bile production and bile dumping. Now, that's not a bad thing. It just is. As we make people less toxic, they make more bile. That's how your body gets rid of toxins. That's the main way. Okay. So there was a paper on constipation where people who got, I think it was more than 18 milligrams of niacin in their diet, more than 18 milligrams. That's like nothing. Like our smallest pill is 25 milligrams, and that's a mini pill. 18 milligrams or more a day had less constipation than the people who got less than 18. Okay, so a little bit of flush niacin can go a long way. And remember that the study on where they had, I forget if they were heart risk patients, I believe. Or they were high cholesterol people. Sorry, they were high cholesterol people. They gave them the 1,500 milligrams a day of the slow release flush niacin. Don't ever use slow release flush niacin. It is toxic. The binders and the slow release stuff is toxic, and we have literature showing that. So whenever somebody says that niacin has problems, you need to make sure that they're not looking at a paper that's slow release flush niacin with toxic binders and release agents in it, because that's in the research. So they took this flush niacin for 6 years, 1,500 milligrams a day for 6 years. At the 15-year mark, so 9 years later, the people who took the flush niacin for 6 years still at that point had a 15% less risk of stroke. Was the niacin still in them? No, the detox that the niacin did while they were taking it was still causing beneficial effects 15 years later. They had just gotten rid of a bunch of toxicity. And so they were better off overall. And that effect still showed up 9 years later. So at the 15-year mark. So what amount is good? Any amount that you tolerate. Do you have to flush? No. We say don't avoid the flush, but don't chase the flush. If you're too much of a baby to have any flush, well, I'm sorry. You might need to just harden the F up a little bit. It's not that bad. So I'm taking, depending upon how much is in the preparation that Kelsey gave me, probably between 1,500 and 2,500 milligrams of niacin a day mixed with my special new experimental ingredient. About a tablespoon of that. So yeah, we're not light dosing the experimental stuff. So yeah, that's about how much I take a day. I made sure when I got home last night, so after the drive from LA, I was driving home and I said, I need to take my experimental stuff and I need to take my flush niacin. And so I made it up and I took it and I went to bed and I was in bed flushing. Not terrible, but I don't flush that much anymore because your body gets you're actually detoxing the stuff out of your skin that causes the flush. It is the toxins in your skin that the niacin is running through the detox pathways, especially ALDH, in my opinion. That is what the flush is. And each day, as you are leaking bile into your system and you're putting more aldehydes out into your system, and or there's PUFAs in your body fat, and what do PUFAs turn into? Malondialdehyde and 4-hydroxy-nonenaldehyde. So you have aldehydes ready to be made in your fat, especially if you have a long history of eating seed oils. Well, this is what is causing the flush. So as you get less toxic, over time, you will flush less and you'll be able to take more should you choose to. But yeah, I don't want a lot of people out there are doing really well on about 100 milligrams of flush niacin a day. And they're like, I don't want to take more. The flush is too strong. And I'm like, 25 milligrams a day is great. 100 milligrams a day is great if people are taking a pinch of it. Great if that's what they tolerate. Whatever works for you over time, like what we see with, as an example, zinc. A lot of people, the more toxic you are, sometimes you don't tolerate zinc at all. Okay, or very little. That's showing that you're toxic. Over time, as you get better, we see people able to tolerate more zinc. Why did they not tolerate it at the start? Because it induced too much detox. They didn't feel good. They were too toxic. There's too much to detox. And over time, as they get better, they're less toxic, so they can take more of the stuff that induces the detox. We're seeing this. I mean, Kelsey's a great example. Kelsey's up to 20 milligrams a day of zinc now. And she used to, fall asleep on like 5. It used to make her have to take a nap if she took too much zinc. And now she doesn't have that. She still knows if she takes too much zinc, she has to take a nap. So she doesn't do that, right? Doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, then don't do that. If you don't want to take a nap, don't take too much zinc. But what she's seeing is her amount that she can take over time is increasing. This same thing happens with niacin. Okay, so we got that. So yeah, 1,500 to 2,500. I'm working on, Kelsey gave me the Niasoda recipes. We're going to have a plain and a lemon flavored, and then the Niasoda black with the charcoal added. And I'm working on getting quotes on those right now. So yeah, we'll have those available soon. So that's pretty exciting too. Let's see. Victor asked, what is your view on niacin depleting methyl groups at higher dosages? I specifically talked to Kelsey about this, and that is depleting niacin or depleting methyl groups is a niacinamide, nicotinamide problem. That's what causes it. We don't use niacinamide or nicotinamide. We don't see methylation problems show up with flush niacin. Now, let me give you another example from other people in the health field showing that we are improving methylation with flush niacin. Okay. Some of you may be familiar with the flush niacin test for undermethylation or overmethylation. First of all, I think these are they're useless terms. But like Dr. William Walsh and undermethylation and overmethylation and all this stuff. So they would say one of the tests you can do is you take a small amount of flush niacin, like 50 milligrams. And I did this. I went to Natural Grocers and I bought some Cal 50 milligram flush niacin. So the idea is if you take a small dose of niacin and you flush really hard, you're an undermethylator. That's what they're saying. Okay. And I fit all their questionnaire signs of being an undermethylator, which is most people. Most people are undermethylators by their standards. Do I use this anymore? Not at all. So if you guys come back to me with undermethylator and overmethylator questions, I don't care. I don't use it. I threw it out. The only thing I liked from William Walsh was the emphasis on copper toxicity. Imagine that. That's what I kept from his work. So if I was an undermethylator by genetics, what genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger, right? So the environment is what rules whether the genetics express themselves. If I was genetically an undermethylator, I should always flush strongly at 50 milligrams, right? Because I'm an undermethylator. And if flush niacin was depleting methyl groups, theoretically, I should start flushing even harder at lower doses, right? My flush should get stronger, and I should be getting worse because I'm already an undermethylator. How much niacin did I say I was taking now? Flush niacin? 1,500 to 2,000, 2,500? You want to know the highest dose I ever took? 20 grams in one day. 20 grams. That is approximately, a teaspoon is approximately 2,500 milligrams. So I was taking 8 teaspoons of flush niacin powder. Now, if I was an undermethylator and I was making my methylation worse by doing that, shouldn't I be suffering terribly? Toxins ruin methylation. Why? If we know that what they are fortifying flour with is poison, because we just know that that's what they're trying to do with it, they put niacinamide in that. Why are people saying they're having methylation problems? Well, partially because of niacinamide. Why did Grant write a whole article? Grant's whole article on niacin is about niacinamide because he doesn't understand enough about nicotinic acid or flush niacin yet. I wanted to talk to him and have Kelsey talk to him before he wrote that article, but he put it out before we got to talk to him about it. So, yeah, I don't believe the whole niacin depleting methyl groups at all. Flush niacin, nicotinic acid. So whenever you're talking about anything niacin, you must differentiate. Niacinamide is a recycled waste product of the process. You're loading up stuff that has to be processed to get back into the game. You don't want to do that. Avoid nicotinamide, avoid niacinamide, avoid NMN, nicotinamide, nucleotide or whatever it is, and then the NMR, which is the riboside. Just avoid, they're already niacinamide. Everything that you think those other fancy niacins can do, flush niacin does it better and for a lot less money. And when you start to look at how hard it is to find, you realize maybe it's kind of suppressed, or maybe it's just that people are big babies about the flush. And so they're willing to take something that's toxic, that doesn't work, because they're avoiding the flush. How many times do we see in our daily life how much people will avoid any kind of suffering, even if it's for their benefit? Okay. So Kayla was asking, do I have any update regarding Kelsey's store order? Sorry if I answered this last week. I wasn't able to tune in yet. So Kelsey is appealing. Etsy has her on, I don't know what you want to call it, suspension or whatever, because she wasn't getting to her orders. And she is in the process of appealing it right now. I have plans to help fix the issue once, because she can't get to the orders. She can't get to the emails. She can't get to the orders. She has no access to it right now. So we're completely at the mercy of Etsy. That's the update I've got for you. So, Will says, in good news for the group, your last hair test showed high zinc and low copper. That's good. Be careful of reading a hair test without my numbers, Will. Your copper may actually be, low copper on the hair test is generally where we want it. And we just want the zinc on the hair test is completely judged as relative to the zinc is judged relative to the copper. I don't care about the absolute zinc level. I care about the relative zinc level to it. We went over all that in a seminar, the hair and blood testing seminar that I just did a couple weeks ago. And I just did the first study group on it on Saturday while I was in LA. And we went over Kelsey's first 2 tests a year apart, where we brought down her copper and we brought and we're getting her zinc closer to the copper. So what we want to do is if we have high copper and low zinc, first we want to we want the zinc basically to outpace the copper. We want the ratio to be right. On the blood tests with a wait, was it like this? I'm trying to reproduce how I had it. On the blood test with a plasma zinc and a serum copper, we want the plasma zinc higher than the serum copper. That's our first goal. And on a hair test, I want whatever the copper level is on the hair test, I want the zinc level to be 20 times higher on the hair test. They're very different, numbers. So it's not, that's what I want. So it's always with calcium and magnesium, it's how the magnesium relates to the calcium. And with copper and zinc, it's how the zinc relates to the copper. The absolute levels of magnesium or zinc don't matter much. It's all how it relates to what it protects us against. So, okay. Logan asks, thank you for the super chat, Logan. I forgot to say, the super chat, LeBrad. Okay, so Logan's asking any difference between intra, it's actually intra, I-N-T-R-A, which means within, intrahepatic or extrahepatic cholestasis symptoms. My children keep getting fevers. One's 8 months old. The other is 2 years old. Any advice? Also, any vitamin A and whey protein isolate? Thank you. There is, here, let me go. I could go find that. Let me go find that for you. So yes, there is vitamin A in whey protein. Let me find the article. This is from my old research forum where I put together a bunch of stuff. I'm going to put this in the chat, and Joe, I'll put it in your Telegram too. So this is an old article of mine. Yes, there is vitamin A in whey. There is vitamin A in casein. This is why dairy causes so many problems. This is why we've had people who are like, I thought I could get away with raw milk and I couldn't. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what we say, is because it's got all the vitamin A in it. It didn't go anywhere. It's not natural. And so somehow it's better. It's just because it's raw doesn't mean it's not a problem. Raw toxins are toxins. I was eating raw mercury and it won't hurt me because it's raw. Like, I was eating raw BPA. So I had some raw BPA and it was totally fine. And it doesn't bother me. And it's like, come on now. I don't cook my BPA. Like, oh, geez, come on. There we go. I can hear myself talking in the background. So there's that. Let me get back in here and bring up my chat. There we go. So, okay. So the difference between intrahepatic and extrahepatic cholestasis symptoms. First of all, it doesn't matter in a way, because you don't really, you could measure the serum bile, right? But it's not going to tell you where it came from. You're still getting bile in the blood. Now, intrahepatic, so from within the liver, this is based on my theory of interpreting how this goes. Intrahepatic cholestasis seems to be worse, right? This means that the bile is actually leaking out of the liver cells that make it. It's leaking out of the teeny little bile ducts in the liver. It's going directly to the blood. Like, there's no collect $200, no pass go. It's like straight out of the liver into the bloodstream. That's going to be I interpret this as the people who are super sensitive to things probably have more. And it's always going to be a balance. It's going to be a spectrum. Like there's going to be some amount of extrahepatic and some amount of intrahepatic. Intrahepatic is worse. I tend to think of the undertypes tend to be more intrahepatic. They're more sensitive to things. They react much more strongly to things. Somebody was actually saying that their theory was that why are they underweight? This seems like a legitimate potential theory. So if I'm thinking that underweight types tend to be more intrahepatic, and they said maybe they can't hold their weight because the bile is not going into their gut as much. And so they're not absorbing as much fat calories. And so they're just not getting as many calories into them as they are eating, as like a normal person is eating. They're not absorbing it because they're not having very much fat in their gut. And I do also think that undertypes don't make as much bile, but it's also terribly toxic, which would then explain why it's so toxic. It's dissolving the liver cells that make it, and it's dissolving the little bile ducts inside the liver. So this is all just, and I say that it's harder to fix undertypes. They take longer. Their liver is in worse shape. So it's all kind of fitting together. Intrahepatic cholestasis would be like the people who take a simple detox supplement, or they take anything almost, and they feel like it hits them like a truck. They just feel terrible right away, like right away. Extrahepatic cholestasis is everything else. Extrahepatic cholestasis would be symptoms in the stomach or like GERD, bile reflux. Extrahepatic just means it's leaking into the bloodstream or going places it shouldn't outside of the liver. So extra is outside, right? Hepatic is liver, outside of the liver. So this could be the bile going back up into the stomach or the esophagus, eating holes called ulcers and causing GERD, which is really bile reflux. Could be causing that cough of GERD, right? It's leaky gut symptoms. Bile eats holes in your gut. There's the holes, gallbladder problems is extrahepatic. That's outside of the liver. Common pancreatitis issues, pancreas issues. There's a bile duct that goes back up to the pancreas. So that could be a sign of extrahepatic cholestasis, would be pancreas issues, which diabetes, right? That's one. So other issues that are, but would it also, so once it leaks into the blood, is it going everywhere in the body? Once the bile leaks into the blood, however it gets there, it's going everywhere. Where do your symptoms show up? Where's your weakest link? What caused your weakest link? Is it diet? Is it the types of toxins you've been exposed to? Is it the recipe of your bile? Is it your genetics? Is it old injuries to, like, did you have your gallbladder removed, or did you have, other things that happened? We showed in an earlier episode of the live streams how trauma as a child showed up. Those people had more liver problems later in life. So can trauma be part of it? Yeah. So don't be afraid to deal with your emotional stuff either. So yeah, so that's intrahepatic is just like the quicker symptoms and the worst symptoms, especially people who are very, very sensitive. And then okay, they're very sensitive because it triggers detox. Now, also, this is not a guaranteed thing, but constipation, right? So we trigger pooping by bile in the guts. So if somebody was either not having a lot of bile in their guts, how could that happen? Well, maybe their liver's not making much because it's really toxic. Or if the bile is going straight into the bloodstream, where's it not going? It's not going into your gut. So constipation may be an indicator of intrahepatic cholestasis. Diarrhea would be a sign of there's plenty of toxic bile going into your guts. So I think that's about all I can give on that. Now, the thing I don't want people to do, if you're going around on the internet or on the Love Your Liver network and you're telling everybody, oh, I have intrahepatic cholestasis based on what I just said, no, don't do that. You don't know. I don't know. These are theories. Here's the important part. Does it change anything we do? It doesn't change a damn thing we do. Not a single thing. The concepts and principles still hold true. We need to make your bile less toxic. We need to bind up the bile in the gut so you poop it out. And we need to stop putting poisons in your cake hole. And we need to give you the nutrients that you need. That's how we fix all of it. There is no fix for intrahepatic cholestasis versus extrahepatic cholestasis. There just isn't. So it's the same concepts and principles. That's why when you want to distinguish between these, and I'm not saying, Logan, you're not the first and you won't be the last. It doesn't matter. But fevers would be bile in the blood. It was shown in those Rockefeller studies back in 1905 and 1906 that when they injected the animals with bile, they got fevers and paralysis and comas and death. What can a bad enough fever cause? Well, it can cause those things. Now it'd be bile in the blood. And if you watch the sepsis and anaphylaxis show, then you start to see how this can really happen when it gets really bad. So the fever by itself is just bile in the blood. How could the bile get in the blood? A bunch of ways. Like, extrahepatic or intrahepatic. They both go to the blood, depending upon, where the leak is. So that's what I got. And you are welcome. So, let's see. Oh, Will said his zinc to copper on the hair test was 20-1. And if you guys don't know, if you wanted to try to do your hair test on your own, you can order them from our store at nutritiondetective.com. You go and try to interpret your hair test on your own or with the other bullshit on the internet. I interpret hair tests differently than everyone on the internet. I do not follow Eck. I do not follow Watts. I do not follow Dr. Lawrence Wilson. I do not follow even the guy who taught me. Why am I not remembering his name right now? Starts with an M. Anyway, I have reverse engineered the entire hair test analysis, and we've simplified it a ton. No, it's not Mawson. It's not Matheson. Joe. Anyway, I'm not remembering it right now. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. Nothing I do on the hair test is like anybody else on the internet, and we have simplified it. We have distilled it down to where you can ignore, what do I want to say, 3/4 of the hair test? What do I do? Like I just said, this concepts and principles to fix the toxic bile leak. It's concepts and principles to fix the hair test. And then when we fix them, as I went over in the study group for the seminar this last week, I showed Kelsey's hair test pre and post, and I showed her blood tests pre and post, and I went through it and I said, see, this is what we care about. She did the right thing here. See how it fixed this. As an example, let me just explain this about Kelsey's hair test. She had on her first hair test, uranium levels off the charts. This was before we were working together. Uranium levels off the charts, and arsenic levels were I don't know, a third up the chart or maybe half. And we had a chat, and I was going, where did this come from? Do you have any idea? And she's going, I don't know. She checked. So what she did, she checked her well water. I said, you need to check your well water for uranium and arsenic because this looks like a constant onslaught of these minerals. Checked her well water, no uranium and no arsenic. And I was like, are you eating much rice? No. And then even after that, whatever rice she had been eating, which was very little, she stopped. It's like, well, she said she had moved around a bunch in the past, but I think she'd been at her current place for 3 years, maybe 2 or 3 years at that point. So I was like, it should have grown out in the hair by then. We shouldn't be seeing stuff from her old locations unless it was a detox. Unless it's coming out of her because she's doing the love your liver stuff, where we improve all of detox. When things go really, really high toxic-wise on the hair test, if there's no exposure, it's typically stored toxicity coming out. We talk about this all the time. So we got her hair test back. It was a year later. She was supposed to do it at 6 months, but she did it a year later. Nothing's perfect. Nobody's perfect. So she did her test. Her uranium and arsenic had completely disappeared. Basically nothing. So what did I tell her at that first consult, I said, okay, so she got back to me about the testing that she did, and she was like, it's not there. I was like, okay, so if it's not a current exposure, and if it's a past exposure or past toxicity that was stored up and it's coming out now, that could look like this. And that's a really good sign that you're detoxing. If it's a current exposure and we just don't know where it's coming from, we got to figure that out. But I said, if we are correct, and this is a stored past exposure that is now coming out, I told her this, and you guys know who have worked with me, I tell you this, if that's what it is, on the next hair test, it will crash down and basically disappear. What happened? It crashed down and basically disappeared. Just like I said, did I have to detox the arsenic? Well, she had very high copper, and she figured out how she got it. It was copper bracelets and all the, she was into the health stuff. Kelsey was a health nut, just like all of us were before. And she got copper toxic, just like so many people got copper toxic from all the things they did before. Well, we got her copper way down. But what sucks up zinc? So remember how I just told you, detoxing will use up zinc. Some of the people I think who complain about doing Grant's diet, they were zinc deficient to start with, just like everybody else. And whatever they were eating in terms of the prison diet that Grant does, the beef or bison, black or white, or brown or white rice, and black beans, they're not fixing their zinc deficiency with what they're eating. They're not supplementing. And their zinc deficiency is getting worse over time because of all the stuff they have to detox. Even Grant said when he was on his diet, he took 50 milligrams of zinc a day he would do one pill every 2 weeks, and he would feel better for 3 days. What does that mean to me? He was deficient in zinc. Deficiencies cause problems too. So if you're not testing, you're just guessing. That's just the way it is. But anyway, at the start, Kelsey had high copper, that uses up zinc. She had high arsenic, that uses up zinc. She had some mercury and a little bit of cadmium. All of those use up zinc to detox. So what did we see on her second test? Her copper to zincs all got better. So she was detoxing copper. The arsenic disappeared. The mercury came down by half, even though she wasn't eating any fish and shellfish. And then the cadmium disappeared. Do you think all that detox would have used up zinc? Do you think maybe at the start why she couldn't take a lot of zinc could have been the arsenic? Could have been that she would detox arsenic too hard and feel bad because the zinc would kick it out of the liver into her bloodstream. As we get the copper lower and the arsenic lower and the mercury lower and the cadmium lower, she can now take more zinc. So now we're on like a positive cycle. We're like snowballing in the right direction. This is what we do. I'm really good at watching patterns, and I've been doing hair tests now for, I think, 2013. So I got 11 years of them under my belt, and I do them on every person I work with. So I've seen a few patterns. So yeah, so that was pretty cool to go over Kelsey's stuff. And then we went over somebody else's hair test who was in the group, and she had super high arsenic. And I went, and she was trying to figure out why she had heart issues. As soon as I saw the arsenic on her hair test, I went and I was like, I got to see if this is connected. And all of a sudden, the arsenic connection to her heart was so obvious after we looked up what arsenic causes, and it's getting better. Do I try to detox arsenic specifically? Anybody ever heard me talk about, here's how to detox arsenic? No, you just don't eat stupid amounts of it in your rice by buying the right rice and by preparing your rice properly, and you're still going to get arsenic from your rice. Hopefully you can get it down to a level like Lotus Foods is very good in terms of rice. It's expensive. They actually are the only company that shows their rice arsenic testing. And zinc helps. Charcoal has been used to detox arsenic out of groundwater or wastewater supplies and groundwater supplies. Charcoal has been used to detox arsenic. What else do we use charcoal for? Everything. So soluble fiber probably soaks up arsenic. I didn't look on that one because I just assume it. It's in the bile. And this woman her symptoms are improving. She worked, I believe, that if I'm correct, this person worked with Dr. Wilson himself and got worse. 11 servings of vegetables a day was what he was putting her on. Oh, and you had to eat all 11 of them all at once. You had to like instant pot them and then eat all of them together. And we're getting her better. So, okay. So, let's see. Joe, any other nope. Let me go back up and look and come down. Yeah, Victor was saying, holy smokes, 20 grams LMAO. Okay, so let me explain 20 grams of niacin. He's talking about what I said earlier. When I say I'm going to test something to make sure it is safe, just like I said, I'm taking a tablespoon of the experimental stuff right now. I mean it. Like Kelsey came into the Love Your Liver world, and she wanted to share the niacin stuff with me, the nicotinic acid stuff with me, and I was still kind of like, I was learning about it, which I do, right? I used to make the mistake of thinking niacinamide, the research on niacinamide and the research on nicotinic acid was the same because it was all niacin. I was uneducated. Kelsey came along and educated me. And I said, well, and she's like, and it runs ALDH. I looked at all the detox pathways that it provided the NAD, the energy to run. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. So I started taking it. Like I said, I went, as soon as I decided to take it, I didn't want to wait for Amazon or whatever to ship it to me. So I went to the natural grocers and I bought those old 50 milligram niacin pills, the flush niacin that they have there. And I took one and I was flushing and I was like, I remember this because I took it once in college. I remember in college, I was reading about all these guys talking about flush niacin and it helps bodybuilding. And so I was like, okay, I'll get some. And I took it and I was sitting in the chair just going, I don't like this. This sucks. Why would anybody do this to themselves? And so because I didn't understand the benefits that would come, I stopped taking it. I was like, this sucks. I don't like it. I'm not going to do it. Okay. Now that I understand it, and then I started taking the 50 milligrams, and then I was talking to Kelsey and I was like, when can I move up? And she said, whatever the flush is, whenever you're fine with the flush, whatever that flush level is, you can go up as long as you're not having any other negative symptoms. So I said, well, we're going to test this. Like, we're going to take this for a test drive like I do. And I started doing, I think I went up to 2.5 grams a day, and then it was 5 grams a day, and then it was 10 grams a day. And I went up to 15 grams a day for a week. And I did one of those days as 20 grams. I was not flushing at all. The weird thing is once you get over the hump of a certain dose, the flushing starts going away unless you start missing days. And if you take it, just so you guys know, if you want to take a dose, if you take more than one dose of flush niacin in a day, the first dose will be the strongest flush, and each dose after that will get less. Sometimes just disappear. So I was taking 5 grams 4 times a day. It was a pain in the butt. I didn't want to do it. I was just like, this sucks. I don't like dosing things multiple times a day. But that's what I'm doing right now with the experiment. That's what I did with niacin to prove that it was safe to me. I was up to 5 grams for a while there, and then I just went, I think I feel fine on minimal effective dose, right? Another concept we use here. You want to take the minimum amount of stuff that gives you the most benefit, right? I found that 1500 to 2500 was about the dose that gave me the most benefit. So that's where I'm at. I don't take more just because I don't think more is better. And I don't want to drink that much of it a day. Not because it's bad, just because I'm just late. I don't want to say I'm not lazy. This is something we should all not talk badly about ourselves, right? I'm not lazy. Obviously, I get a lot done. Sometimes I'm not going to do that. The effort, the juice is not worth the squeeze. That's all. So Chris Masterjohn. So I just saw this one from Christopher 3D. Chris Masterjohn talks about niacin causing a form of glucose intolerance. Have you heard of that? I'm wondering if it's actually from niacinamide. Most likely, yes. And okay. Well, Chris Masterjohn will do anything. He'll say anything just to keep the attention on him. He's so sick. He's very unwell. He went on a trip to like Europe or something, and he didn't take his vitamin A supplement with him. And he said within like 2 days, he was getting all of his symptoms back. And so he went and he bought a bunch of big vitamin A supplements to shut down his symptoms, his like allergy symptoms or his sinusitis symptoms or whatever. And I was like, wow, now we know he's just shutting down his detox with all the vitamin A. And as soon as he stops all that vitamin A, it's all just rushing out. His body's just trying to dump this toxic bile into his system. It's trying to get rid of it. He won't let it because he eats so much vitamin A in a day. But the other thing here is, okay, let me explain something. I'm going to explain a couple things here for people who are doing the program or who are thinking about it or who are getting into it and they're not in the Love Your Liver program, so you're missing out on other information I give. First of all, if you come into this program from a low-carb approach, keto, carnivore, whatever, and you have not been eating carbs, the members.nutritiondetective.com, that's the Love Your Liver program. That's the do-it-yourself program where there's a whole like social network in there. You can talk to other people. You can ask questions. People find it's very helpful. Like, yeah, it's what social media should be, is helpful people on a topic all helping each other. And it's a hell of a lot better than like Facebook groups, which are just full of shills and trolls and scary. The blind leading the blind is what a lot of groups out there are. So what was I talking about? Oh, so if somebody just jumps in, if you know you have a carb intolerance for however you got it, and you see my stuff and you go, oh, well, Dr. Smith says I can eat beans or I can eat oats or I can have carbs again. I can have apples and bananas, and you start eating a ton of carbs and you're not ready for it. Yeah, it can raise your blood sugar. Okay. You're not ready for it. If you break your ankle and you still have a cast on your ankle and you go like, oh, this personal trainer says I should go run. And you go and you run on the cast and you wonder why your ankle is not healing and why it's getting worse. Because it's not ready. This should be a concept that, like, if you're vitamin A toxic and you haven't been detoxing because you've been doing carnivore and you're not pooping out your bile at all, you can't just necessarily jump in. Some people can. It was like that meme that was on, I saw the meme on Twitter the other day. It was like somebody doing carnivore and they're feeling amazing. And then the next one was they feel bad because they ate a French fry off their friend's plate. It's a joke, but it's true. Like, carnivores can get messed up from eating what would be in potatoes that could cause a carnivore a lot of problems. The resistant starch. It's digested a lot like a soluble fiber. It starts doing things in their gut that the bacteria who want to feed on that are like having a party. And it's going to cause some issues because it's rearranging their whole biome for a little bit. They could get out of it if they did it at a right amount and they started eating more things other than just meat. But that's not what they're going to do. They're going to run right back to it and wonder why over time things don't work as well as they wanted. So, flush niacin at the very beginning. Okay, so let me give another story here about fixing cirrhosis. So we have a woman where we have lab proven she fixed her cirrhosis. Liver cirrhosis, primary biliary cirrhosis. She fixed her liver cirrhosis. Okay. When she first came to me, she was on UDCA, which is the pharmaceutical secondary bile acid. It's related to TUDCA. It's just UDCA doesn't have a taurine on it. Okay. She was taking UDCA and it was keeping her liver enzymes looking good. They were in range. Okay. Maybe a little high, but they were much better than they were. I said, I think you're going to have, she's like, can we fix this? And I said, I think we can, but to get there, you're going to have to get off that UDCA. She said, well, I can't because every time I do, I've tried it before and my liver enzymes just go up to like 600, 700, 800. And I was like, well, you could stay on it and not heal, and your liver enzymes will look good. And then you can look at the research, the long-term research on UDCA, and show that UDCA damages everything liver related. It makes your liver enzymes look good, but it damages everything liver related. You could stay on that. Or I said, I think if you want to get better, you're going to have to get off of it. And your liver enzymes are going to go up as your liver is healing. And then over time, as you do the right things, the liver enzymes will come down. She said, well, my hepatologist is going to freak out. I said, yeah. You're going to have to decide which one you want to do. It's your choice. It's your body. I am empowering people to make their own choices in their health. I'm not telling them what to do. I said, this is what I think is going to happen. Had I dealt with anybody with cirrhosis before? No. What did she do? She did the cowboy diet, as we call it. She did beef and beans. And her liver enzymes went up, and then they came down. And now her liver enzymes are fine, and her cirrhosis is gone. Kind of like Grant with his chronic kidney disease, where all of his kidney labs are fine now. And he did his prison diet of beef or bison and brown or white rice and black beans. Very simple diets. Fixes deep stuff. As deep as it gets. Like, we now have 2 people whose hepatologists, liver doctors, have discharged them because their liver problems are gone on imaging and testing. Hepatologists usually, the only time a hepatologist usually says goodbye to a patient is when they die. We get hepatologists to discharge people. So, could somebody's blood sugar get a little higher for a while as we are fixing things? Yes. Could they adjust it if they're eating tons of carbs? Could they trim down the carbs while they're fixing things? Just like Kelsey started with less zinc, and then she increased the zinc as she was less toxic. Somebody might need to start with less carbs, and they could increase the carbs as they tolerate them better. Do you see this process? This is how we do things. We have to adjust to where you have to adjust to where you are. So since niacin runs ALDH and then produces more bile, could we see, just like with the lady with the cirrhosis, you get her off the med and the liver enzymes go way up, and then over time they come down because we are actually fixing the root cause of things? Is it possible that at the start, somebody starts doing a lot of flush niacin and it increases their blood sugar a little bit, but they stick with it and then it comes down? This would be a normal process. People who can't trust that process, they're not going to make it here. So if somebody saw that too much niacin was causing them problems, they can take less. There are some other people, this is something you can do on your own accord. I'm not suggesting anyone do this, but some people have found that when they have issues with niacin, if they go up, the issues solve themselves. So that's just what some people have observed. But yeah, that's how that works. The short-term stuff is not like, that's what most studies look at. There's no long-term studies on flush niacin like causing diabetes. You won't find it. You'll find some short-term studies where they saw, oh, the lipids in the blood went up, and then, oh, maybe the blood sugar went up a little bit. It's not long-term studies. It's fixing the problem, but they're looking too many people out in medicine look short-term. And they look at herb studies that are like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they're like, yay, it does such wonderful things. And I'm like, it's going to destroy that in the future. And then you look at the long-term science, like on milk thistle. Milk thistle's long-term research is not good. People are like, oh, it fixes the liver. I'm like, no, it makes liver stuff look better short-term. Long-term, it ruins stuff. And I've had multiple people with testimonials saying so. They know about it. It doesn't fix anything. No one has a milk thistle deficiency. To fix things, things are going to get a little messier first. This is the way of the world. You want to clean up your room? You know, you want to clean out your garage. I've done this example before. You want to clean out your garage. Your garage is full of garbage, toxicity. Needs some storage racks. It's got deficiencies, right? It's got deficiencies. It needs storage area, and it's got toxicities. It's just accumulated crap and garbage in it. And then there's some good stuff in there, but you want to get rid of the crap and garbage. So what do you have to do, right? It's really hard to clean the garage with all that crap in there. So now you got to move the crap out of the garage onto your driveway. So you can make room in the garage to actually clean. So you get all the stuff out of the garage and it's on the driveway. Now your garage is still dirty. It's not clean. It's just less messy. And now your driveway's dirty too. So now things are actually got dirtier. And then you clean out the garage, right? You clean up, you sweep the floor, maybe you paint the floor, you put in the racks, you've been fixing the deficiencies. And then you decide what of all the crap out on your driveway you want to keep and what stuff you're throwing away, and you get rid of that toxicity. And then you put the stuff back in the garage, and now it's all clean. You have less deficiencies and you have less toxicity, and your garage problem is now clean, but it had to get dirty before it got cleaner, dirtier before it got cleaner, right? This is the way. This is why so many people can't fix themselves, is because let's say this cirrhosis person was like, oh my gosh, my liver enzymes went up. I'm going to get back on the UDCA. And then she never gets fixed. When we know we're doing the right things, when we know we're not doing things that are making things worse, and we see labs get a little worse, but the person's symptoms are getting better. The symptoms are getting better, and maybe the labs get a little worse, and we know we're doing the right thing. We continue the path. Fixing your labs doesn't fix your health. Fixing your health over time fixes your labs. That's how it works. Everybody wants to obsess about labs. That's why I don't do very many labs. Most labs show you symptoms. Like when you say you have low red blood cells. Is that, and they'll say, oh, you have anemia. Okay. Is that a cause? Like someone will be like, oh, you're tired because you don't have enough red blood cells. And then the joke I have is you do the 5-year-old question. Why do I have low red blood cells? And then if you get, I don't know, they might say, well, let's say it's a woman and your menstrual cycle's too heavy. You're bleeding too much. You're losing iron and blood cells, blood every month, and you need to fix that. And then the 5-year-old question, why are the cycles so heavy? And they go, oh, because of estrogen dominance and progesterone deficiency. And why are you estrogen dominant? Why are you progesterone deficient? And you just keep going on with these until, let me tell you when you can stop. When you get to a toxicity that can be fixed, or you get to a deficiency that can be fixed. And then you fix it and the symptom goes away. That's how you know you're at the end of it. That's how you know when you're looking at a lab that if it's just a symptom, or if somebody's like, well, you got low red blood cells, so eat some liver, and you go, why? And they'll go, well, because it's got this, this, and this. And then if you stop eating liver, will the problem come back? Yeah. If you stop taking the herb, will the problem come back? Yeah. So what did you fix? You didn't fix anything. You fixed a symptom. You addressed a symptom, and the cause was not addressed. So we address the causes, and that's why we see these things go away. Now, the other thing about that, somebody might say, well, are you going to need zinc forever? It's an essential mineral. If your car runs out of gas, is your car going to run out of gas all the time? Yeah, gas is kind of essential to run your car. Is oil essential to run your car? Yes, you have to put the essential things in. No one has a milk thistle deficiency. No one has an herb deficiency. No one has a pharmaceutical deficiency. So those are ways you can get down to really what it is. Okay. So let me just look and see if there's anything. Let's see. Any other good questions? I'm going to be done here within 10 minutes. So let me just see what else we got. Okay, this is a good question. Baptized in Fire asks, does sun fiber adsorb bile? And what about apple fiber? Okay. The easy way to know with fibers. So again, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. The more, what is it? High viscosity is slow flowing, right? High viscosity is really thick. The higher the viscosity of a fiber when it's wet, the more bile it adsorbs, right? So apple fiber, why do they use apple fiber in jelly and jams? Because it soaks up a lot of water, it adsorbs it, and it does adsorb bile. And you can look in the research and find that. Sun fiber, on the other hand, it's not high viscosity. It's a low viscosity. You mix it into water, you hardly notice it's there. Like you can hardly tell it's mixed into water. So is that going to adsorb a lot of bile? No. Straight guar gum might adsorb a lot of bile, but your gut doesn't like it. Don't use straight guar gum. Sun fiber is partially hydrolyzed guar gum. It's been kind of like pre-digested, if you will, into just that PHGG, that sun fiber that is very, it's tasteless, it's odorless, it barely affects the water at all. Think of the sun fiber as more of food for your gut bacteria. But it does help you poop because it helps your gut bacteria, which then helps your bile, which then helps your liver, which then helps you poop better. We've got research on sun fiber helping diarrhea. We got research on sun fiber helping constipation. So it is affecting the bile, but indirectly through affecting the biome, which then affects everything else. So apple pectin, absolutely. I mean, applesauce is a pretty good example of being, thick, and apple pectin used in jams and jellies and other things as a thickener. So if a fiber is used as a thickener, it's generally adsorbing bile. If it's kind of thin, like sun fiber, or as some people have used, I used in the past, I used acacia gum, which is very similar to sun fiber. They're just mainly feeding your gut bacteria. So that's that. We're working on, I'm getting quotes on apple pectin. So hopefully we can sell a powder of apple pectin, which is just straight apple pectin, like nothing else in it. And people can then dose it higher or lower based on what they want. I'm working on getting some beta-glucan, some oat beta-glucan, or maybe even some barley beta-glucan. I'm getting quotes on that. We're going to be making it so if for people who don't want to eat oats or beans, or maybe they don't feel good on them, or they want to do them with less carbs, like we talked about earlier, not everybody tolerates a whole lot of carbs, or if they want to eat their normal diet and just add more fiber to it, like Will, we're working on that. And then there's also potentially the roasted barley coffee, where there's probably going to be some soluble fiber in the water when you make it. So that's the gist of that. Charcoal adsorbs a ton of bile. The difference between soluble fiber and charcoal in most people doesn't trigger a bile dump. Charcoal doesn't trigger a bile dump in most people. In some people, it does. So if you ever notice, like if you take charcoal, so most people, 95% of people, they take charcoal, if they take too much, they notice they get constipated. Okay, that's the normal thing. It soaks up bile, it holds tight, so it doesn't touch the intestines. And if you don't have enough bile touching your intestines, it becomes hard to poop. This is the mechanism of it. So if somebody takes charcoal and they notice that it helps them poop better, they are likely one of the people who charcoal helps, that it triggers a bile dump in them. and there's enough bile that they dumped, it's more than the charcoal adsorbs. It touches the intestines. They poop better. If you're one of the people who charcoal triggers a bile dump and you poop better with it, consider yourself probably one of the lucky ones. Somebody asked me, I think it was, I think it was Mateus. He was asking me, like, can he push? He's one of the ones who poops better with charcoal. He said, can I take advantage of this? Can I push this? And I said, absolutely. As long as you don't feel bad, you can push it. You can take advantage of this thing, this situation. So if you get constipated on charcoal and you want to take it, you either need to not take so much that it constipates you, or you need to take something like magnesium orally to help you poop. If you're one of the people where charcoal triggers a bile dump and you don't feel good because of it, then take less. But if you feel okay on it and you want to try taking as much as you can to trigger the bile dump and soak up the bile, and you feel fine doing it, then go ahead. Like I said, the detox supplement that I'm working on, I think, is really going to help. And we've already gotten some good feedback on it. It still does. Anything you take for detox can cause you to not feel good. Because if you detox too much, you dump too much bile too fast, and you leak too much of it into your bloodstream, you don't feel good. So we have to modulate these things. Think of it just like exercise. You could run too much and hurt yourself. Is exercise generally good for you? Generally, yes. Can you overdo it? Yes. Can you do too much of a good thing? Yes. Some people can't understand this concept about detox, and I feel bad for them. You can do too much of a good thing. Okay. CEW, thank you for the super chat. He says, my opinion on CoQ10 supplementation. Thanks. It's, I would say on that, we got two more super chats, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. My opinion on CoQ10 supplementation. Do I think CoQ10 deficiency is mostly toxicity or deficiency? Yes. If someone wanted to try CoQ10 supplementation, it's a try it and see thing. You can take it, see if you feel better. If you do, you can keep taking it. If you don't notice anything, which is most of the people I talk to about CoQ10 are like, I didn't feel anything on it. So then they eventually quit taking it. Am I going to get into the arguing about all the different, this one's the best form and this one kind of sucks and all this stuff? No, because I saw people take, most of these patterns that I've established are from real people. And I watch people, they're like, I don't feel any different on, I took the better one, I took the worst one, I didn't notice anything on that. I'm like, stop taking it. It's not doing anything. It's not doing enough for you to notice. Could somebody notice it a lot? Yes. Could they then take it? Yes. Some people feel amazing on vitamin K2. A lot of people don't notice anything on it. So who should take it? The people who feel something on it. If they are doing things right on the program, and they're doing the general approach right, and they've detoxed enough, over time, I'm going to bet, like as I've seen with vitamin K, I tried some vitamin K the other day. I didn't feel great on it. That's what I expect for people who have been doing this a while. People who are detoxed more eventually don't need vitamin K, and the vitamin K actually doesn't feel good to them. People who are deficient in vitamin K, because what depletes vitamin K? Vitamin A depletes vitamin K. I've been doing this for 6+ years. I'm not depleting my vitamin K anymore by eating a bunch of vitamin A. So I don't need it. And when you don't need things, sometimes you don't feel good on them. So CoQ10, I would expect probably to turn on somebody after they take it, after they're doing this process long enough. And then their body doesn't want it anymore. We see this with all sorts of things. So this is not a new phenomenon. So CoQ10 would be like, you can try it if you want. Do I think it's doing anything magic for the process? No, but if it helps you feel better, then I think it's fine. So I don't push it. I'm not against it. That's the simplest way of explaining it. Okay, so Susan was asking, have I seen a sunshine effect to niacin? I tolerated 500 milligrams daily niacin all summer, and in October, I could barely tolerate 100 milligrams. Started tanning salon 10 days ago, and I tolerate 200 milligrams now. Okay. So, okay. I just want to make sure I was getting the sun and the niacin correct. Okay, so what's the theory here? What does the sun do to toxins in your skin? It oxidizes them. Okay. Sunshine. Okay, a sunburn. What's a sunburn? Right? You're out in the sun too long. Your skin turns red. Eventually, after long enough, it starts to peel. It gets itchy, and it's red and painful, and then it peels and it gets itchy, right? And you slough off the skin. What's a niacin flush like? Just accelerated. Your skin gets red. It gets itchy, gets tingly, gets hot. That's all sunburn stuff too, right? But then it goes away in like an hour. What happens with a sunburn? In my opinion, the sun is oxidizing a bunch of toxins in your skin, especially retinol esters, stored vitamin A in your skin, and other stored fatty acid ester poisons in your skin. They're bound to fats in your fat. You oxidize them into aldehydes. They break off the fatty acid ester into the alcohol forms and other things like related like that, and then they oxidize into aldehydes. What do I think the redness of a sunburn is? I think it's aldehydes stuck in your tissues, causing their damage. Why are the aldehydes taking a week to get processed? Because you're deficient in niacin. So when the sun is around and you're getting sun, Susan, you had less aldehydes in your skin because you're getting sun regularly. It's oxidizing them and it's moving them through. You're not getting burned. It's doing a normal sun detox. And then you're moving things through at a pace where you're not getting burned. And you could tolerate more niacin because what is the flush doing? The flush is taking those fatty stored toxins, moving them through ADH, which turns alcohols into aldehydes, and it's moving them through ALDH, which is getting rid of the aldehydes. So niacin is detoxing your skin too, but when you had the sun, there's less toxicity in your skin and you could take more niacin. As the sun went away, you tolerated less niacin because there's more to detox in your skin because the sun is not doing it. Then you started going to the tanning salon again, getting UV light to break down stuff in your skin, and now you're finding that you're tolerating more niacin again. So the sun is an oxidizer. The sun is a detox agent, but most people's ALDH sucks. And this is why they get sunburned, and this is why the sunburn lasts so long. Niacin is basically the detox process of the skin. It only takes an hour, and then there's no peeling and pain and all that stuff. Once it's over, it's done for the day. So that is the likely explanation of this. So the redness of the niacin, flush niacin, and the redness of a sunburn is the aldehydes kind of stuck in that state in the skin until they move out. It's not a reason to avoid flush niacin. It has to move from retinol to retinaldehyde to retinoic acid to really be gotten rid of. I think the peeling of a sunburn is when those aldehydes finally turn into enough retinoic acid and it dries out the skin, just like retinoic acid dries out everything eventually. That's why they use it for acne. It dries out your oil glands. Why does Accutane cause so much dry eye? Because it dries out everything. Accutane dries out everything. So what would retinoic acid, which is Accutane is a retinoic acid, why does a sunburn eventually go into peeling? Because it's one way for the body to get rid of the toxins, right? You can just peel off the skin. Also, retinoic acid dries out things over time. So hope that covers that. But it's most likely as you get more light. For now, this will go away Over time, this effect will go away as you detox more. But over time, like I said, it should go away. For now, you're doing a great job of following your symptoms, following your biofeedback, and saying, when I was doing this more, like more sun, I could take more niacin and I had less problems and it was okay. As I started getting less sun, I couldn't tolerate as much. So I'm taking less. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to the tanning salon now and I can take more. And so here's the key thing, folks. Even if she didn't know, even if I couldn't explain the sun connection, and she simply followed her own body's feedback, she would be fine. Do we have to explain it? No, she just follows her feedback. Doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, then don't do that. It's very simple. That's why a lot of this stuff it's self-correcting if people follow the instructions. Okay. CEW, so thank you for that super chat. Susan, CEW says, another super chat, thank you. Can food products have beta-carotene or carotenoids and not be recognized as vitamin A on nutrition facts labels? I have a cactus water drink with vegetable color as ingredient, yet it says 0 micrograms vitamin A on label. Absolutely. Anything, if you look up non-pro-vitamin A carotenoids, let me just make sure I have the term. I want to show this. So you can see how to search for it. And so I make sure that I'm using the right term. Okay, here we go. Okay. Joe, you can see my screen. Non-pro vitamin A and pro-vitamin A carotenoids as immunomodulators. That means they change your immune system because they're toxic. Okay. Vegetables and fruits contain non-pro-vitamin A, lycopene, lutein, and zeaxanthin. There's more, like astaxanthin. And pro-vitamin A, beta-carotene, beta-cryptoxanthin, and alpha-carotene carotenoids. Okay? So what they're saying, so any of these, lycopene, lutein, zeaxanthin, astaxanthin, they will not be recorded, measured, put on the label as as IUs of vitamin A, because they don't convert. They're not chopped up by the body into retinoids, into retinol and that stuff, or retinaldehyde. Beta carotene turns into 2 retinaldehydes. Turns right into a retinaldehyde, an aldehyde. So could you have, so what color, like if you were having, I don't know what color your cactus water drink is, but if it was kind of pinkish, it could have lycopene in it, right? Lycopene would be a vegetable color. Lycopene is red, so if they only add a little bit of it, it would be pink. Astaxanthin is a non-pro-vitamin A carotenoid. It's what makes flamingos pink from eating the fish that have it in them. It's what makes salmon colored. So that could also be kind of a salmony pink color, but it doesn't show up as vitamin A on the label. So yes, absolutely. That's the simplest explanation to that one. Okay, CEW. So this is the last super chat. Thank you for the super chat, CEW. Hope we're giving you the information that can help. He asks, I have a firm lump under the jaw in the submandibular gland. CAT scan said no cancer. Well, that's good. Been taking non-GMO potassium citrate and applying ND Nutrition Detective Mag Lotion. Aside from obvious LYL principles, anything else to try? Thank you. Well, you could definitely try, since you're already doing magnesium lotion on it, there's the main thing that I think you could add would be what we call charcoal. Well, what do we call it? Charcoal lotion? Yeah, charcoal lotion. So what you would do, the normal recipe for this, and of course our lotion's the best to do it with, but you could do it with any lotion. You would mix about a teaspoon of lotion with about a half teaspoon of charcoal. And you just mash them together. You do have to mash them. Now, you may not use all of it, so that's just the ratio. 1 teaspoon of lotion to a half teaspoon of charcoal. And you can just put that on the area, and the charcoal will help to suck the toxicity out. Will, I don't know if you want to link that that lymph gland, that little routine, if you're still here, that little lymph detox routine. It was a very simple thing. It was some rubbing and some tapping, I think. And Will said it really helped to clear up some clogged up lymph glands, but that might help that area. Oh, Joe needs the link. But yeah, the charcoal and lotion would also just help to soak up the toxicity directly out of that gland. So the magnesium would obviously help to dissolve the calcifications. The potassium citrate obviously is helping. The citrate is helping to decalcify as well. And then if you wanted to just suck the stuff straight out, the charcoal lotion would likely help with that. So Will sent a super chat and said, no, this is the last super chat. Yes, thanks, Will. But yeah, if you have that that link to the lymph thing, that'd be great. And then Will, if you want to post that in the Love Your Liver program, that'd be great too. So yeah, I think that's, yeah, I would do that. I would get something on there to, I mean, you could even do it. There's, they use colloidal oatmeal lotion. For those of you who don't know, they use colloidal oatmeal lotion for kids with eczema, right? And skin problems. Why would oatmeal be used to help skin problems? Because oats are soluble fiber. They soak up toxins. There's nothing magical in the oats other than, well, I mean, it does have beta glucan, but it's a soluble fiber. Beta glucan is a soluble fiber. It's pulling the toxins out into it, or it's grabbing the toxins in that area. Even though you might absorb some of the soluble fiber through your skin, it's holding on to it. So that is what we got. Okay. Yeah, I got to get to the inner circle now inside the network and go answer those, more controversial questions where I don't have to. Oh, Joe's got the link. Okay. Oh, it's Perry Nicholson. Okay, I haven't thought about him in a while. Well, if that works, Will, Joe, is this Will's link? Is this what he showed? I just want to make sure it's the same thing. Okay, you got it. Okay, cool. Great. So, now we got CE and them dueling last super chats. Nice. Well, thank you for you guys just keep fighting. Just keep doing it. It's okay. But yeah, Perry Nicholson, I went to some of his I went to one of his courses on it was a movement course, and I did like it. I like what he's trying to do. Anyone who's followed Dr. Nicholson's stuff, if you pay attention to it, it becomes overwhelming. There are so many things that he talks about as being an issue, and you would be doing, if nothing against him, he's coming out with good stuff. And like Will was saying, that lymph thing helped him a lot. His stuff was like it didn't seem like there was a system to it. And if you would have done all the stuff that he recommended, just in the movement stuff, like you'd never leave the house. You'd just be doing exercises all day, which makes it difficult to, you got to live. You got to go out and live. You can't just stay home all day and tap your lymph system and do animal exercises and all that stuff. So I like Dr. Nicholson's stuff in general. If you can figure out stuff from it that works, I think it's great. It was too much. And kind of with those systems, it becomes, I'm sure you go in to see Dr. Nicholson in person and he does his diagnosing of your issue and he gives you the right stuff to do based on because he came up with the system. It's one of those systems that I think is very hard to teach to somebody to recognize where the issue is, because you can't take Dr. Nicholson's 20 plus years or 30 plus years of experience and distill it into if this, then this, especially with movement stuff and physical stuff. So anyway, I hope that helps. Thank you all for all the super chats. And yeah, we'll be back next week. I may have a topic next week. I'm hoping to have a topic next week. I think I need to really get on my methylene blue thread on Twitter and just put that out there so everybody can drop it on everybody else whenever they try to promote that poison. Yeah, it's bad. Don't do that. Don't do ivermectin either. It's a pesticide. It's an infertility agent. Don't get sucked into that stuff. So anyway, if it's made by the pharma cartel, you should probably not do it. That's a good general rule to live by. They didn't all of a sudden start making non-toxic pharmaceuticals that are as safe as water. They are getting better at psyops and convincing people by making ivermectin a little hard to get that all of a sudden somehow it's going to save humanity. Don't. Oh, yes. Remember the like button. So yeah, just to wrap up here, remember the like button. Make sure to like the video. Commenting helps. But the biggest thing is, folks, for those of you who are already binge watchers of this, thank you very much. But the reason for YouTube to be here is to accumulate watching time. So the biggest way you can help the channel is to watch more of it. Now, some people have told me that they've fixed their health just by watching live streams, just by binge watching. So if you want to do that, that's great. It's free. It does require work. You want free, you got to do more work. You want it all condensed in one place. That's the Love Your Liver program. And then, yeah, and if you want it, the Love Your Liver members get, not only do they get the program, but they get the access to all the other members to talk about stuff. And then they get the discounts on our supplements. Like I said, we're working on a bunch of new stuff that I typically use and recommend. We're just trying to make it as clean and as good as possible so you guys get the right stuff. But yeah, that's all at the website. If you want to work with me or any of the practitioners, Hope, Kelsey, Nathan, that all you can find at the website too. And like I said, I'm mostly on Twitter at NutriDetect, NutriDetect, because can't fit Nutrition Detective in the handle. So, okay. Yeah. So that's all we got for today. I will see you all next time. Have a great week. It's good to be back in the full sense. Okay. Bye now.